was like, oh, this sounds quite Prince Charming. Because they welcomed me with open arms, it made my journey easy. I was like, oh, they seem really nice. It was very authoritative. This is how we do it. This happens our way. This happens our way. The pressure was really kicking in culturally.
Hi, welcome to Changing Suits. My name's Bal.
And my name's Taj.
On today's episode, we decided to have a conversation that we've had previously, but it has rolled up a lot of interest. We got a lot of feedback, and we had a lot of listeners on this one. And that topic is discussing in-laws. And obviously, there's always going to be a negative slant on that because that's what everyone wants to hear, isn't it? What's happened with the in-laws? So we've got a guest today called Rav, who had a negative experience. We haven't had this conversation prior, so I don't know what's going to be coming out in this conversation. But I'm sure it will be something that many of us can relate to in regards to what she's been through. I don't know. Let's have a quick look. Hi, Rav. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
Doing well. Okay, so Rav, today we've got you on to talk about your experience with in-laws. Now, within the South Asian community, it's always, the fear of getting married is always, oh, will I get on with my in-laws? Will it work out in that fairy tale Bollywood sort of style? Can you talk us through what your experience was in regards to how you met your partner? And let's start from there. How did you meet?
Okay, so we met through a common interest and through kind of work where we kind of networked with different people, and it just so happened that we kind of connected when we did, and kind of just chance meeting. Very quickly got to know each other, and it wasn't arranged marriage or anything like that. It was just us two meeting in our space in the way that we were working in the line of work, and very quickly we kind of just decided where we were. Good or bad, I don't know, but we just kind of thought, oh, let's make this work. Where are you in your life? Where am I in my life? And it was like, okay, let's go. And we very quickly decided that this is how it's going to be, and we're going to give this a go. So that was just me and my partner at the time.
Can I just ask you on that point? You sort of said arranged marriage. You said,
yeah.
What's your perspective on what do you call arranged and love? Because it's really interesting when you talk to people outside of the South Asian community, they have a very different outlook of what arranged and love is. So what's it in your perspective?
So in my head, an arranged marriage is when a family introduces or says, here's a rishta, do you like this munda, and this kind of thing, and we've got a picture for you, and go and check this out, or do you know so-and-so's son or so-and-so's nephew? That's by way of introduction. I feel that that's arranged, and it's two families saying, we know someone, let's see if they get on, and let's see if that's working, kind of thing. It's like, cooking up a recipe. Let me put an onion with garlic. Let's see if it works.
I love how you put that. So tell me, were you the onion or the garlic?
Oh my God. I really don't know now. I might have been the onion that made myself cry.
Oh dear. We want to hear the romantic stuff first.
Should we start at the beginning of the relationship? So would you say it was love at first sight? Do you believe in love at first sight?
Oh, do you know what? Okay, so was it love at first sight? I would say no, it wasn't love at first sight, because first sight to me means physical appearance, physical connection, physical electricity, and maybe that's a little bit fairy tale, but I still believe in that. But it wasn't that. This was very much the connection, as in because of our similar interests and that we got along. I felt that I could be open. This person was showing interest and was showing that listening to me and my journey, and just got on. And it seemed like, very charming and all of that. So I had all of that. I wouldn't say it was love at first sight, though, so maybe my threshold is different. But I don't.
I agree with you. I agree with that.
And taking it from an Asian point of view, was it okay? So our next step is, or our goal is to get married, or was it let's go out with each other? How did it work?
Oh my gosh,
in your mind?
So this was very much, we couldn't stop talking. We couldn't stop talking for hours and hours and hours. I think we must have talked 3 days straight without sleeping. Just because of the
Oh,
way we were. And it was all to do with our common interest and how we just gelled and got on with it, and it was just ridiculous. But literally, within that first week, it was like, what are we doing here? And as I said just now, then the question was, where are you in your life, and where am I in mine? And the question was, well, he said, well, I'm done looking for people, and I'm done doing the multiple dates. I just want to settle. And I said, you know what? I just came out of something that not just very recent, but at that time I was like, I've come out of something. I do want to get married one day, but I feel like, should we just make this work? It was literally like the word in Punjabi is samjhota. It was like samjhota. Should we just make this work? And
Can
and
I
that,
ask you something?
yeah.
At that point, so obviously, when you're talking to someone, and in most cases, just like yourself, it is a case of the end goal you are looking for. This is going to be my partner. That's how I'm. Unfortunately, I was going to say no, but that's how in the South Asian community it works. We do think, okay, I'm in a relationship, we're getting on. Let's hope this goes to marriage. And if it doesn't, obviously, it's a bit of a heartbreak. However, was there a part in your, because we know where this story is going to go at the end,
Hmm.
in your heart of hearts, when you were talking to him at the start, before you'd even got your family to meet,
Hmm.
was it a doubt in your heart? Because sometimes you do have it, even though you sort of ignore it. Now looking
Um.
back,
So when I'm looking back, so now I feel like I'm older and wiser and all the rest of it. I understand what green and red flags are, and that's a separate topic in itself.
we'll
But
go into that
going back,
later.
yeah, going back to what you've just said, was it any little doubt or any little something? I don't think, and this is something I actually say a lot, I don't think I was aware enough in myself to even question my doubts. Does that make sense? So it's like if I had a doubt, I ignored it because I was just like enjoying this moment, and it was just, let's just keep rolling with it. Let's just keep going. Let's see how far it goes. That's where my head was at. But had I been self-aware, because I feel like life teaches you things, and I'm all about experiences, and that makes you more aware, makes you make wiser decisions, and so on, depending on where you are in your life. That's where I am now. But had that many years ago, I'm talking 20 odd years ago now, and it was just like, oh, I missed that. So when I'm reflecting, like, oh, I missed that doubt. So was there a doubt? The question was, yeah, a week in, I would say I didn't know his surname. Yeah, I had decided to take the plunge.
Okay, that's
oh
interesting.
God! Wow.
Now, but that thing is the fact that you've said that is interesting, because why did you? Well, let's get you to explain it. Why is that important that you didn't know his surname? And we
Uh,
know the answer, but for listeners who
so
may not be from the
the
South Asian
surname I
community.
knew was, and I won't say it here, but it was a shortened version of the surname um that I ended up with. And I thought,
Oh,
yeah, so I was like, oh, okay. So in my head, I thought, yeah, Punjabi, yeah, it's fine, sort of thing. And but no, lo and behold, when I asked for the surname, I was like, oh, you're not Punjabi, and oh, sugar, what
At
do I
what
do
what
now?
point did that come? Sorry, so you said it was a shortened version. So that was at the beginning of the relationship. So he told you the shortened version. Is
I
that
knew
right?
of it. I knew of it already. I knew of it already, just because of the
Okay.
network that we were in. But I just assumed that that was it, and I didn't think anything further.
So at what point did you find out the actual surname?
You know, like we have nicknames, like we have, I don't know, like for example, someone could have a name.
Bal and
Yeah,
Bal
so
there. She doesn't put in first
Bal
names.
could be a surname. I'm just saying Bal could be a surname, but it could be something else, really.
Yeah.
You know, it could
Okay.
be Bal or something else. Yeah, so I had a abbreviated surname that I was working with, and so I didn't think of it. And I don't know how
Okay.
this conversation came about, that about a week in, and I said, oh, that is your surname, isn't it? And he was like, no. I said, what do you mean, no? And
What?
yeah, and I was
So it
like,
wasn't
okay,
that
cool,
far
cool,
down the
cool.
track.
It wasn't that far down, but I think I was so, because the decision was already aired. I had already said, yeah, we're doing this. And by the way, what's your surname? Like, can I just check I've got this right? And um, I think, and sorry, just to backtrack, the reason why I asked that is probably because of the caste kind of system that some families are. You know, I thought,
Yeah.
okay, if I am what I am, if I'm Ramgarhia, I hope he's Ramgarhia too. That's all, or that there's not too much difference. Um,
Mhm.
And so that was my reason and intention for asking. So when I did find out, I was like, oh, you're not even Punjabi. You're something completely different.
Okay, and at that point, when you found that out, because it is, and I say only a week into it, but I know how quickly things develop, especially when you're talking to someone for even a week. But if it's 3 days straight, I get it. But then what did you think at that point? Because the casting, and I know the answer, I knew what you were going to say, but for those that didn't know the answer, that is what it is, the cast.
Yeah.
So what was your opinion when you found out, no, you're not even Punjabi, let alone the casting, but you're not Punjabi either?
I had a shock moment because I thought, wow, I feel all this, and I'm a person of word. I've just given my word that we're going to make this work. And suddenly I found myself with someone who's not Punjabi. I thought, oh God, how am I going to do this? And it wasn't, I've got to get out of it. It was, how am I going to do this? That was my thought.
Okay.
And unfortunately, the typical question, what will Lucky say? You know, what will people say? And that was, that was, yeah.
Have you listened to our podcast? You know that's the one line I'm always going to bring up. Okay.
I've heard that one.
You heard it, and it's the same thing.
Um,
Okay, so
um,
Rav, what happened next then? So you're a week in, you found out, you're saying to yourself, we need to make this work. What happened
so I
next?
think I was none the wiser, and I think this is where I'm not saying, look, the thing is, nowadays it does happen, but I think in that time, I feel like it was a different era now. It was a time when interfaith weddings were not as common as they are now. I think now they are so common, it's so accepted. Even families like Chalkoina, Biagrala, Setanola, Tika. But it's like, it doesn't matter. But at that time, it was still, oh my goodness, it's interfaith. Oh my God, it's this, it's that. So I was like panicked, but because I'd given my word, that was it. I didn't think there was another option.
Do you think that's what in the South Asian community there is this whole big thing about if you give your word, that's it, you're kind of locked in.
I think,
Even if you have those doubts on the wedding day, you're like, no, but I've come this far. You know, we've not so much we've spent this much, but I've given again the word. We have to
mm,
go through it. No matter, I know it might not work out.
I think
What
it's
happens?
cultural. I think it is embedded in us culturally that we think that way. Give us go, that's it. We do it. We do what we say. We make a decision. It's clear. And but I don't know. I think also when I look back, I wasn't talking to friends a lot about my decisions. You know, like you have a couple of girl friends or whatever friends, any friends, male or female, doesn't matter. But you talk it through. You talk it as, oh, you know, I'm seeing somebody or this. I didn't. I didn't talk to anyone, so I think that's also a thing that I didn't do that may have helped me at that point, but didn't.
That's a really interesting point. Why didn't you?
I don't know. I still don't know. I
Okay.
still don't know. I really don't know why I didn't. Um,
Okay.
maybe I felt like I was going it alone and making it and making my own decision in that moment, and I felt happy and I felt right, and I just went with it or whatever it was. But I still don't know the root cause as to why I didn't share with my friends.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I do know looking back that he wasn't, so when we were talking about love at first sight just now, he wasn't my first sight ideal person at all. Had I gone for what I originally wanted when I was young, that might have helped narrow this down a little bit, but I didn't. I just went with the charm and all the rest of it, and I was like, okay, go, it's fine.
Okay.
Not that, you know, everyone has criteria, so yeah.
Okay, so at what point did you get so you carried on the relationship after a week. At what point did you get, as we know, the family is very important and we're going to put a pin here. At what point did you introduce the idea first? Because I'm assuming there would have been a conversation before you even introduced him to your family.
No, see, another red flag. So, so my partner at the time felt he was taking control in the sense of, I'm going to go speak to your family. You don't have to
I
do
think
it.
that's
Oh,
a
But
pretty good thing to
I
do.
was going to say, but I like that. No?
I like that.
All right, okay.
Exactly. It felt like, you don't worry, I've got this.
But don't you think that would have been a bit of a sledgehammer for your? Was it he just turned up on the doorstep, or was there a warning for your parents? How
So
did it go?
they knew that, so my family knew, so my dad passed away years ago, so it's just my mum and then my sibling, and they knew because of the line of work that I was in, there was always people coming in and out, like in terms of friends, there's always people passing by, so they would have already seen this person at some point or known of this person because I was quite vocal about what I was doing and who I was meeting and things like that. But And yeah, so this person decided, I'm going to go and speak to your mum. And I was like, oh, this sounds quite Prince Charming. Like, I like this. And it is lovely. It's like asking your hand in marriage. Suddenly this turned Bollywood. And this is like, yay. Um, and I was nervous. And then he said, you know what, I'm going to speak to my aunt. And I'm like, hang on, why aren't you speaking to your parents? He goes, I can't have that conversation with my parents. I'm going to speak to my aunt, who then will relay it to my parents. But can you come and see my aunt? I was like, yeah, sure, let's do this.
Hold on. Let's go back there.
Yeah, that's a
Why
bit...
didn't he want to talk to his parents? Why couldn't he talk to his parents?
Probably for the same reason. Probably because
But
it
he
was
could
not.
talk to your parents. Mm.
Yeah, he felt he could talk to my family, but he felt he couldn't discuss it with his parents. I think it's because of the interfaith thing, um, or maybe their own expectations, or maybe the lack of now looking back now the lack of it's like you have a relationship with your parents and the openness. I don't think they had the openness, but I'm not saying I did either. I didn't either. I'm a Punjabi girl brought up in West London and, raised in a very traditional way. And I couldn't talk about things like that with my family either. So this is quite a major, bold move. Um, and yeah, so it's really interesting, very, very interesting. But in the end, I went to see his aunt, who was totally cool. She's like, don't worry, I'll speak to his dad. It's fine. And because they welcomed me with open arms, it made my journey easier. I was like, oh, they seem really nice. And then I went to see
Sorry,
his
so
parents.
so the aunt welcomed you with open arms. She then went to his parents, and then they were positive about it.
Yeah, so the minute that she said to him, said to them, he's got someone, and by the way, she's Punjabi. And they must have had their own conversation at that time, but his parents then approached him and said, oh, we heard from your aunt, this, that, the other. It's fine. Let's talk about it. But I don't think he was confident to talk about it himself. So, but it worked, whatever it is. And maybe because I'd met her as well, that maybe she got to understand what I was about and how I was, and that's it. So that helped. But yeah, so this was happening side by side, parallel. So he was seeing my family. I saw
How
his
did that
mum.
meeting go? How did that because that from the girl's perspective. So he's
Right,
gone to
so
see your
he's gone
mum.
to see my family, my mum. I wasn't there.
Yeah. Oh my God, you're
Did he tell you
kidding!
that he was going to go when you weren't
He
there?
went to see my mum. Oh God, I hope I got this right. I believe he took her out for a meal.
Oh, that's nice.
Wait, did you know this? Wait, hold on. You knew that he was going to take her out for a meal? Because if
Yeah,
a
yeah.
random person came up to me and said, "I'm taking you out for a meal," I mean, to be fair, if they're paying for me to go to Pizza Express, I'll be like, all right then. Obviously, my expectations are that high.
I
But so
think
you
it
knew
was
that he
something
was going to
like
take her.
that. Yeah, no, he had this whole plan. I was like, man, he sounds like the knight in shining armor that's going to come and save the day and do it all really well. I found it really impressive, to be honest, at the time. I was really impressed.
So
Um,
he took her out for a meal. How did the
yeah,
conversation from what he said
Oh, wait, did
go?
she agree to the meal?
well, she agreed because I think he said, I want to speak to you in person one to one about your daughter and I'd like to see you.
Okay.
So I think she accepted the offer
Okay.
and possibly the free
Which is a
meal.
positive in it. But that was a positive in itself that she
Yeah,
accepted, because it could have been no, nothing,
Yeah.
yeah. So
nothing. I'm not going
yeah,
to do it.
exactly. And I can't remember how much he had said before the meeting, but obviously at the meeting he had said what he had said. And I think it was pretty much led by him, as in, this is, we both like each other, this is what we want. And but I'm coming to you for your respect, for your permission, for your blessing, blah blah blah, which is nice. It's nice. And I remember my mum telling me afterwards that she actually said to him, she didn't say yes, she didn't say no. She actually said it's whatever Rav wants. That whatever she wants, as long as she's happy, it's fine. Otherwise, it's not happy.
That's beautiful, that is, that, because you'd hear, oh, no, no, but then it's what your child wants.
I've
Val,
got
So I've
I've
got
got
two
no,
takes on
no,
it.
that's nice.
Go on.
I've got two. Sorry, I just want to ask two things before the conversation moves on because I feel like it's two burning questions. Firstly, It's interesting that he was too scared to go to his own parents. However, he was happy to go to your parents. Now you were in the same boat and so you can answer this. Why did you find it easier then to go to his aunt, who obviously was a bit more positive about the whole situation anyway, but you were too scared to go to your own parents? Why is that? What do you think that's about?
So from my perspective, my dad had passed away years ago, quite a traditional, typical British Asian family. And in my family, I think because I was the good girl that achieved well at school, and my dad, when he was alive, bless him, used to talk about how well I did in my grades, and and I was the one who did all the cultural things right. I knew about all the Rivaj and Rasam and do so many cultural and religious things, spiritual things together as a family that I was looked at as the perfect girl across my dad's side of the family specifically. My mum's side family, I was the eldest granddaughter. Although we were most of them are spread out in India and some here, but again, there's a lot of pressure of the good girl who
That's
does
so interesting. That is
does
interesting.
everything culturally and faith-wise right. It ticked all the good girl boxes in a typical British Asian family household in West London, who's also achieving
Okay.
good grades by the year. That's it, that's all I did.
Okay. So on that point, how did you feel at that point again, going back when, because you said the pressure of being the good girl, it's there, it is there.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you found out at that point when he obviously wasn't Punjabi, what was your perspective there? Because that's a tough one. You've got the pressure of being the
So
good girl.
it
But
was, I've given my word to this man.
yeah,
B, I'm in the line of work that we were in, which was a bit more open minded. So I just thought, hang on a minute, if my family understand what I do, they might be a little bit more open to the idea. But also, I was scared. There was fear always. What will people say? There was always fear of how the wider family would take it. But I think essentially, I just needed to know from my mum if this was going to go ahead or not, or how our conversations from that point were going to go on. I don't know. Now, the funny thing is, my mum never confronted me and I never confronted her, but they had that conversation, the two of them. But she never said to me, do what you want or are you happy? She never asked me. So, me actually and my mum never had this emotional bond enough to even have that conversation. So,
even
we,
after he had had that dinner
yeah,
with
I
her, you still
didn't.
didn't.
No.
So how did the next step go? How was it? Right, okay, let's get ready for the wedding.
Yeah, so how the next step go was that so once his family knew, his family were like, right, we're going to go and see Rav and her family now. Let's go over there and do what was the equivalent of a rukka. And they said, no, we'll come and see her family. We'll talk to them, and give the shuggans, so to speak, to kind of do a rukka to say, right, this is our girl now, and we've marked her, and this is happening. And I told my mom, and she was like, okay. And that's it. And we rolled with it. We just rolled with it.
So
And
at
it's
no
like,
point was there a sit down conversation about,
no,
oh, how,
no, not at all. It's so bizarre when I look back, but yeah, there wasn't. It was just we rolled. Everyone rolled with it.
What about your extended family? At what point did they find out? Because
So
that's the tough bit, because we
yes,
keep talking
yeah,
about what did the
yeah,
family say, what did the community say.
yeah, yeah. So my mom, she did say at that time, she was like, right, now that we've done the rukka, we need to tell your say for example Daya Jajibua and all that kind of stuff, because they are your extension of your dad. They need to know before anything that this is what's happening. So she did the traditional thing of finding a photo. Me a photo, and we're gonna have to go there. So we went to my buyer's house. I remember that very clearly, and we had a family meet. Let's have an excuse to have jaju, and I sit down, and we're all casually sitting there, and suddenly, my cousins had no clue what was going on as well. They were all there, and suddenly my mum was brave enough to say, right, well, we've got some news, and Rav's getting married, and she's found her own munda. He is not of our faith, and this is what it looks like. They passed this photo around the room. And they're like, oh,
A normal thing.
yeah. They passed this photo, like, okay. And it was a photo actually of the two of us at an event, so that was interesting. It's a photo of two of us, so it's technically looking at us together. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, Tika, they look fine together, sort of thing. And then they said, look, as long as you're happy, don't worry.
Wow,
That was the instant reaction. I was like, what? I just wasn't
this
expecting
sounds
that.
too easy.
Exactly that. It was too easy. Um, Nobody said anything about the faith at all.
Why do you think that? I don't know. Why do you think that is? Because it sounds really an easy ride.
Because
It
it's 20
was,
year ago. Let's forget it was a different
Yeah,
time, like you've said.
yeah.
yeah. But everyone else was pretty much no, as long as she's happy. Tika. I remember everyone just saying Tika. So I don't know if that was a yes and no, but not a yes and no. It was just Tika. That was actually the reaction.
Okay, so we're good. Everyone seems to be okay, which is great. You get married. Is there anything? How was the lead up? How was the wedding? Was it all good?
So
Or
suddenly we
anything?
were
Any
preparing
red
for.
flags there?
Right, so suddenly we were, yeah, no, absolutely. So we were preparing for this um, huge engagement, first of all, because I think that was the official announcement. So the engagement being the Junni Gurmai type equivalent. So we did do a Gurmai, we did do a Junni as well, despite the thing. But we were met with challenges, but the engagement was a huge party, and that was actually very well received by everyone. They just enjoyed the moment, and they were part of a huge party. So that all sounded like it was all going down the right road. Everything was fine, and then came the ultimate lead up to the wedding. So that's when my family and my in-laws at the time met up for, right, this is how we need to sit down and talk about the wedding. Who's paying for what? And the ultimate, how are we doing the wedding day? Who's doing the reception? And these are typical kind of questions that happen, I think, leading up to, is the boys' side paying this? Is the girls' side paying that? And I remember being at my in-laws' house, we sat around a table, and we were talking about, the doli, for example, in Punjabi culture. We have it from home after the Gurdwara traditionally. It's just culturally that way. Some people do it from the Gurdwara, that's different. But they were just like, no, um, it's only got to be done from their way. So the whole wedding has to happen their way. And I said, no, I'm having a Gurdwara wedding. And sorry, I've just realised I've not revealed the culture. So the culture is Hindu Gujarati. So completely, that opens up the Hoven and the whole Mandap weddings and everything else. So it was like, hang on a minute, but Sikh weddings happen this way, Hindu weddings happen this way. How are we going to do this? And my partner at the time, he was like, well, I want a Hindu wedding. And I said, but you're not cultural. You're not religious. Um, but he said he wanted it. And I said, well, I want my Sikh wedding. And suddenly we found ourselves fighting for the little, kind of ownership of, I want this my way and I want this my way. And they were just like, we don't want anything, dowry, this, that, the other. We don't want anything. We don't want exchange of gifts. We just want them to be happy, was the message I was being told. But then they were saying things like, well, my mum couldn't give me away at the Hindu wedding because she's a widow. And that might be culturally correct, but it opened up a whole load of triggers in my mum saying, I can't give my daughter away at my own wedding. And then this whole kind of friction started to build.
Okay.
And obviously, as a girl, as a bride getting married, I was like, hang on, why are my in laws saying this? This is really unfair. This is really inconsiderate. They're not thinking of the bride. They're not thinking of the bride's wishes, of me wanting to leave my home in the way that I want to leave, or with the ceremonies that I want to do. And it even got down to, I couldn't wear the colour that they wanted me to wear. Like she wanted to know what colour I want to wear. And there's this phase of, I don't want to tell anyone. I want it to be a surprise what colour I want to wear. Unless I'm coordinating with my partner, it's different. But I just want it to be a surprise. But no, she phoned me every day to find out somehow what my colour was. Oh, we're thinking of wearing red. Are you going to wear red? Or we're thinking of wearing this color. Are you sure? And in our culture, you've got to wear these colors. And I'm like, but I can't wear white on my wedding because it's a sign of death, sort of thing. But we wear white.
Okay.
So
And
is this when you started feeling the pressure?
the pressure was really kicking in culturally. But it didn't stop me. I was still rolling with this wedding.
Marriage, as we know, regardless of where you are, what faith, what caste, whatever, it always comes down to compromise. There's always going to be things that you don't agree on, but there's also a sense of compromise. Do you feel that there was no compromise from the other side or your side, and that's why the clashes were happening?
So on one side, they were like, you are going to be you are going to be the daughter-in-law of the whole family, and their family was huge. So I felt like I was being welcomed as the new princess or the new queen in their family, and believing me, that was a wonderful, again in inverted commas, Bollywood feeling. It really was the Bollywood feeling. I cannot say, I think this whole thing was run by a Bollywood kind of theme in my head at the time. It just, everything sounded perfect, but the little details were irritating leading up to the wedding, to the point that stress factors were like, stress was really high. I felt that they were speaking to my mum, really kind of putting her down, patronizing without realizing, and then cost got involved, and it just sounded really kind of awkward. And I thought, wow.
How was your partner? So your mother-in-law or your ex-mother-in-law was phoning to find out the color of your suit. How was your soon to be your fiance at this point? Was he on your? It's gonna sound childish. Was he on your side? Was he like, no, you have to listen? Where were we?
So here's my next red flag. I used to tell him stuff, but not everything, because his view at the time was, look, my mum's going to call you about this. Just speak to her. Just speak to her. Just speak to her. Boy, I think it was just to keep everyone happy, just so that this is still kind of happening. It was avoiding the real issues actually, and um, I can't say he was on my side, and I also can't say that he wasn't on my side, because actually he was listening to what my mum was saying, which my mum was saying, well, should I get you measured up for, a sherwani and this, that, the other, and so he was doing everything he was listening to my mum to kind of get on the good side on this side, and just kind of, he found it easier for whatever reason, but he never spoke to his mum, and then his mum was like not understanding that, how come he's doing all the wedding talk and discussion with my mum and not with them. So
Yeah.
It does sound like he's got a very close relationship with.
Hold on. This comes back to the same thing we were talking about of telling the parents about the pressure, and it rolls down to the same thing. I'm assuming, again, as we go down through this conversation, it's the tough thing of how open you can be with your parents, your own parents, but it's okay to be open with someone else's parents. The pressure that we put on ourselves or they put on us.
It's a really strange one. I mean, that's just me looking back, but I think at the time, everything was just flowing forward. It was a tick box exercise. We are planning a wedding. We have a gurdwara, and now we have a mandap wedding too. We also have a court wedding. We also have a reception. We also have all the ceremonies in between.
I call that a wedding, though. A South Asian wedding.
It was one hell of an interfaith wedding, and I don't regret how grand this was. It was amazing, and for what it was at that time, it was actually one hell of a wedding. Yeah, it was just a lead up, and I understand. I think in any wedding planning, nothing's going to go smoothly, whether it's your own culture or not. There's always going to be clashes with, oh, I want this or I want that. But I think with culture, you've got the added thing, and obviously my conversation was coming through from his mum, so I was the spokesperson with his mum, or she was a spokesperson for their family to me, and very authoritative. It was very authoritative. This is how we do it. This happens our way. This happens our way. This is how it's done in ours. Kind of thing was.
So already she was stamping the rules.
That's
almost.
it. I had a sister-in-law who was not cultural, and she said, "Listen, take it with a pinch of salt." Blah blah blah. She was trying to help, kind of switch my thinking, and I think because of that little bit of support, I thought, "Don't go to carry on, carry on, carry on." But it got to the point where, silly things like my reception outfit, it was agreed that the boys' side would pay for it, right? And because I was doing everything else, and and in the end, I went to India. I did all this shopping on my own and with my nanki as well in India and everything, and came back with this wonderful outfit for my reception, which at that time was very cheap. For 300 quid, I got a bargain. And I came back and I said, look, it was 300 quid, because my mum said, make sure you just let her know how much it was. I said, yeah, sure. Told her it was 300 quid. She said, oh, I've only got a budget of 50. And I said, what, for
£50?
Yeah.
What was she going to buy
Sorry.
you? A leg?
I'm
Right.
sorry. Okay, that
Legolas
is
kids.
not acceptable even for my standards.
No,
£50.
and I said for my reception outfit, you only have £50.
Okay, I think that's blown me and Bal away. I would
Yeah,
have thought that's it. Pack up
well,
shop. £50. What
300
are you
is
gonna do with that?
300 is a bargain considering nowadays I know outfits are much more than that. But
So what went on from there? How was the conversation? Did you end up paying for it? What happened?
oh, I paid my 250 and I got my 50.
At least you got your
So
50 though.
they
Silver
didn't
lining.
even say, "Oh, okay, all right, let's pay it." So it was no, we're paying 50. That's it.
Yeah, no room at all. And that's where if things got harder, I just kind of had to bite my tongue and keep going. And it got hard. It got really hard for me and my mum. And then financial pressure was on mum as well because I also, so at that time I wasn't working enough to kind of fend for myself. I was probably still, I would consider myself not earning much at all. So my mum actually picked up most of this financially. How she did it, I'm still learning. But at that time, I just picked up the small things like, oh, mum, I'll pay for all the wedding cards, or I'll pay for this, and I'll pay for that. But she did the whole thing. So this became huge financial pressure on her. And it just got really harder, really, really hard.
Did the other side paid for anything?
Yeah, so they went halves on a reception. I think it was halves. No, sorry, I got that wrong. They paid for the whole reception, but then only allowed 100 guests of mine, where it was 400 of theirs.
Okay.
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Okay.
had a
That's tough. That
And
is
how I want to know how you picked the 100. But anyway,
very difficult. I had some gate crashes thinking they were invited, and we had to send them away.
At least you were prepped for, like, you get the COVID thing. How difficult it was for us when we had our brothers. I guess, if nothing else. Oh my god, that's crazy.
Like I said, it was a total of 500. They had 400 guests. I had 100.
I don't even know how they put that forward to you.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, changing_suits, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.